We have exactly 50 days to turn 20 of these giant mystery orange tadpoles into a fully formed frog army. To start, they need an environment built entirely for swimming. That means a standard glass tank filled with cycled water, lined with basic pebbles, and scattered with a few decorative plants. But by day 3, the system failed. Almost every single tadpole stopped swimming. They became completely lethargic, sinking motionless to the bottom of the glass. To fix this, we had to force air directly into the water. We dropped in an air pump to aggressively churn out bubbles and artificially oxygenate the enclosure. Solving the oxygen problem revealed a waste problem. By day 4, the water looked murky, like raw sewage. We had to immediately install a heavy-duty biological filter to scrub the toxins out of the water column. This diagram illustrates a brutal reality of amphibian development. In the wild, 4 out of 5 tadpoles die before ever reaching adulthood. Even with our filters running, that statistic caught up to us on day 8, when one of the tadpoles didn't make it. A static bowl of water is a death trap for a growing amphibian. Their survival relies entirely on active mechanical life support, constantly processing waste and injecting fresh oxygen. To get the surviving tadpoles moving again and push them toward their next life stage, we engineered a custom high-calorie meal, the tadpole burger. The recipe is highly specific. We boil romaine lettuce for roughage, add a thick layer of bloodworms for dense fat and iron, and finish it with crushed nutrient pellets to supply missing vitamins. They need this massive, immediate spike in protein to physically build new body parts. It fuels the rapid cellular replication required to pull off metamorphosis. By day 11, the diet worked. Bright yellow patterns started bleeding through their skin, and actual physical limb buds began sprouting near their tails. This stage is called the metamorphic climax. The sudden eruption of limbs acts as an internal biological alarm clock, signaling that their bodies are preparing to breach the surface. The moment those legs appear, the purely aquatic tank becomes obsolete. To keep them alive, we have to tear down the entire habitat and build something new. We replaced the fish tank with a 20-gallon paludarium, a hybrid enclosure. We built a physical rock wall down the middle, separating a deep pool on one side from dry soil and moss on the other. Around day 15, an intense internal shift happens. The amphibian breaks down its tail mass, routing calories directly into building new leg structures. Simultaneously, its respiratory system rewires. The gills shrink, while 2 primitive lungs expand to replace them. This transition creates a severe drowning hazard. With lungs still forming and gills disappearing, they need immediate access to ultra-shallow water, or they risk suffocating in the pool they grew up in. During this window, the physical strain of a mutating respiratory system becomes more lethal than any external predator. Once the lungs were functional, the first frog dragged itself out of the water and took its very first steps onto the dry soil. Almost immediately, its behavior shifted. Instead of hopping around freely, it instinctively shimmied backward until it was completely buried in the dirt. This burying behavior confirmed exactly what species we had: Pac-Man frogs. They are strictly terrestrial ambush predators that sit perfectly still in the mud and wait for meals to walk over them. By day 28, several more frogs had breached the soil. We now had a collection of vibrant yellow and orange predators, growing at drastically different speeds. Their bodies now demanded live prey. We had to pivot them away from passively munching on stationary lettuce burgers and introduce moving crickets. At first, they were clumsy hunters, missing multiple lunges and snapping at thin air. But eventually, instinct kicked in, with one frog violently bursting from the dirt and swallowing a target nearly its own size whole. Stepping onto land marks the end of passive grazing. They are now obligate carnivores that survive exclusively through aggression. That aggressive carnivore instinct triggered a massive crisis on day 40, directly caused by the uneven growth rates we noticed earlier. We discovered a dark biological reality of the Pac-Man frog. One of the larger, faster-growing frogs had fully consumed a smaller, slower-developing tadpole. Because they are hardwired to ambush anything that moves in front of them, a shared community tank is completely unsafe. They do not recognize siblings. They only recognize calories. This forced an emergency habitat redesign. We had to separate the colony and construct completely solitary enclosures for every single surviving frog. Pure predatory instincts do not discriminate. If you don't physically isolate these ambush hunters, their shared home will inevitably devolve into a feeding ground. We built these solitary units starting with exactly 3 inches of coconut fiber soil. This provides the correct depth they need to satisfy their urge to backward burrow into the ground. Next, we added ultra-shallow water bowls. Because adult frogs breathe exclusively air, this gives them a safe place to absorb moisture through their skin without any risk of drowning. This cross-section shows how we establish a thermal gradient. By attaching a heat mat exclusively to one side of the glass, it creates a hot zone in red that smoothly transitions into a cooler blue zone on the opposite end. Amphibians are cold-blooded, meaning they rely entirely on external temperatures to digest food. This gradient lets the frog self-regulate its own internal body heat by physically moving toward the heat mat when it needs to warm up and retreating to the cool side to avoid overheating. By day 62, the remaining tadpoles had fully cleared the metamorphosis process, leaving us with a stable, secure colony of 15 healthy individual Pac-Man frogs. Raising an amphibian means managing a biological machine that requires its entire physical world to evolve alongside it.